So we do have some breaking news here, and this is that there's actually an investigation going on by the Justice Department into a potential bribery scheme to obtain pardon. So as you guys know, obviously Donald Trump has lost the election, and he will not be becoming president once again. He's on his way out. Inauguration Day is coming on January 20th, so it's about, almost 2 months left, essentially. And so what we know is he's going to be pardoning a lot of people on his way out. He's committed a lot of crimes. His buddies have committed a lot of crimes. So we know that this is what he's going to be doing. So this article reads, the DOJ is investigating a potentially criminal scheme involving paying a bribe to people either in or affiliated with the White House in exchange for an unknown person receiving a presidential pardon, according to court documents that were unsealed Tuesday. The court documents, which were unsealed by the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, say the DOJ investigation involves two people whose names are redacted, who were improperly acting as lobbyists to secure the pardon for a person whose name is also redacted. The plot involved the person offering, quote, a substantial political contribution in exchange for a presidential pardon or reprieve of sentence. It was not immediately clear for whom the pardon would be granted or where the bribe would be directed. The documents provide no indication President Trump was aware of the plot. The disclosure, contained in a 20-page filing littered with redactions, comes amid reports that Trump is considering pardoning an array of associates in the waning days of his presidency. The new filing shows Chief Judge Beryl Howell was conducting a review in August of a request from federal prosecutors to examine documents that had been obtained from a search warrant as part of an investigation into the plot. The release shows investigators recovered more than 50 digital devices, including iPhones, iPads, laptops, and computer drives, after a raid of unidentified offices. The prosecutors were requesting access to the devices on suspicion that they showed alleged criminal activity regarding the, quote, secret lobbying scheme for the unnamed person. The files indicate the devices contain communications between a defendant and an attorney, which are typically kept from prosecutors because they are considered privileged. However, such privilege is not applied when an exchange involves discussion of a crime, and Howell granted prosecutors access to the devices. Quote, the political strategy to obtain a presidential pardon was parallel to and distinct from Redacted's role as an attorney advocate for Redacted's name, Howell wrote in her court order. So basically, that's essentially what's going on. I don't know how the legality specifically works in terms of pardons. I feel like pardons are kind of, sort of this gray area. Like, what are the laws when it comes to, pardoning? There are, the bribery scheme, like, this is the thing, right? So this is the form of bribery that's obviously illegal. It's, it was like that thing, remember that thing that Rosie O'Donnell sent out on Twitter where she basically said that, I forget who it was at the time, it was maybe Lisa Murkowski and John McCain or something like that, and was telling them to vote against the repeal for Obamacare. I'll give you each like $200,000 in cash. Like that's a bribe. That's illegal. You can't do that. You can't be like, in exchange for this, right, for this action, I'm going to give you this much money. That's quid pro quo. There's an exchange that involves, one person giving money in exchange for a specific action. That's obviously illegal, and that's not how the system works. The way the system works now is, you have super PACs, you have these fat donations of millions of dollars, and, you don't have, like, a specific outlined agreement on what you're going to do exactly, right? But, they answer the phone. Politicians will answer your phone after you donate all that money because they know that you funded their campaign. So what they're doing here is basically trying to be like, hey, I will give Donald Trump this fat campaign contribution. Remember, Trump's campaign is broke. It was broke towards the end of the campaign. They didn't raise as much as Biden did. They raised half what Hillary did in 2016. And remember, he's also, has a lot of debts of his own, right? So that's probably why this is kind of going on and why he's in the position of this, of needing these campaign contributions. So if you're doing a campaign contribution in direct exchange for a pardon, I'm pretty sure that's severely, extremely illegal, and you'd have to be a pretty massive idiot to have even done that, right? Because people corrupt the system in way more vague ways than that, where it's still corruption and bribery, very obviously, right? But it's not like, okay, you do this for this exactly. You're so dumb to do that, right? So I don't know who it is, right? Redacted means, they black out the names of the people. So they basically unsealed these court documents, but redacted a bunch of people's names, removed a bunch of people's names, blacked them out. So we don't know who exactly they're talking about. And we don't know if Trump was aware of this scheme. But what could be possible is Trump could be aware of the scheme, or if Trump isn't aware of it, it is possible that one of his close associates is aware of it, which could implicate them in a pretty major crime in terms of that's pretty serious, that's essentially a bribe for the President of the United States for a legal pardon. That's a huge deal, right? It's a huge scandal. That's very severely illegal. So this could definitely be a pretty big story, and it really depends on who this is going to come down to. We don't know who this exchange was for. Some people are saying maybe it was for Michael Flynn. I have a hard time believing it's Michael Flynn. I mean, he obviously already got pardoned, right? But we don't know if it's Michael Flynn or if it's somebody else that is potentially going to be pardoned, right? Because as we all know, there is a list of people who definitely could be pardoned soon, and we're actually expecting to be pardoned soon, right? So definitely some big news. Another criminal case that could be, putting Trump in trouble, costing him a lot of money, and potentially giving him some jail time too. All of that kind of stuff, right? This is like super illegal. A direct bribe in terms of a campaign donation directly in exchange for a pardon is super, super, super illegal. Especially if there's a direct quid pro quo that is essentially evidenced by literal back and forth text messages of, hey, I will give you this donation in exchange for a pardon. That's super illegal. Okay, that's incredibly illegal. So this is maybe the start of the criminal aspect of Trump's post-presidency life.